Pipedrive is an incredible B2B SaaS success story from Europe. Originally founded in Estonia, they become a world-known brand for sales and CRM software, taking on incumbents like HubSpot and Salesforce. Early on, they invested into content and SEO, and it has become a key growth driver for them. They now get around 700,000 monthly organic users, and they have also managed to build up a significant AI search presence. So in this video, we'll dive into everything they've done from content to SEO to AI search and show you exactly how their playbook looks like. So let's dive into this my report we have prepared for you, where we first start, for everybody that does not know Pipedrive, who they even are. So you can see here a screenshot we took from the homepage where you can see how they position themselves. They say they're the easy and effective CRM for closing deals. And on that note, I can also highly recommend to you the podcast recording I did with Margus Weber, who is head of web at Pipedrive, where he explains how Pipedrive handles the web strategy and how everything is basically tied together. I think it's also a super insightful additional talk that you could watch. So Pipedrive has always been really close to sales instead of, for example, HubSpot, who focused more on marketing. That's also what you can see reflected here in their main headline, which is about closing deals. Then obviously Pipedrive has also started to integrate some AI features into their suite with like AI CRM and agentic experience. I think it's just what SaaS has to do nowadays to actually please investors and maybe also just stay on the cutting edge. Now here we have a little table about their funding history, and you can see that they have raised a significant amount of venture capital, and it went quite well for them. So basically their latest rounds have been the Series C for 60 million in June 2018, or Series B for 17 million in January 17, led by Atomico, for example, a big fund from London. And most recently in November 2020, Pipedrive has actually been acquired, or like they got a majority investment from Vista Equity Partners and reached unicorn status. So obviously Salesforce, for example, has like a, I think, 3-digit billion market cap, and Pipedrive is significantly smaller than that. But still, I think it's a super cool success story to see, especially because Pipedrive has then also captured the US market, which you can see reflected in how they moved their headquarters from Estonia then over to New York. Now, let's go into the operational details a little bit more. And we basically split this into organic and AI search. So I'd say let's start with organic, although obviously probably most of you watching are more hyped for the AI search part. But I think what's key to understand is that everything Pipedrive has gained so far in terms of AI visibility is also rooted in their efforts around content and SEO. Now, I took the screenshot from SEMrush here, which basically proves my claim in the beginning about them getting around 700,000 organic users a month. Obviously, it's an estimate, so it's an educated guess from SEMrush, so to say, based on the keywords and based on the projected search volumes. But they also have like a pretty stable and very high number of rankings with around like 270,000 global. So this is for all countries of the world. And if we look into the presence a little bit deeper in terms of visibility, we basically checked some of the top commercial keywords here, and you can see that Pipedrive has a very, very good presence for something like sales CRM tools, CRM tools list. They're also in the top 3 if you compare Pipedrive to other tools, for example, as you can see here with the keyword Pipedrive versus Monday. Then also for very interesting commercial terms that are basically directed to certain software categories with best account management software, sales pipeline software, pipeline management software. So this is obviously something that has more niche volume. So for example, sales pipeline software has like 480 estimated monthly searches in this example for the US. But if you rank number 1 here, as it's something that has a clear transactional commercial intent, I can see Pipedrive getting a lot of conversions from that. And this is obviously just a small extract, but you can see if you think about a software category, and for example, for Pipedrive, it might be CRM software. So this would be maybe the term that most people think of. you can see that there's a lot of variety to even something that seems so straightforward. So it's not just CRM software, how people are searching, and with AI, it's getting even more diverse and more contextualized and more personalized. It's also like account management software, sales pipeline software, pipeline management software, sales tracking software, CRM and quoting software, sales management, etc., sales pipeline tools. So, and this is just, as I said, a very small extract, but it already illustrates the wide variety of how people actually search for something that seems so straightforward and where you basically think it's just one term, like CRM software. Then we also have a little overview of keywords where they have a significant presence in AI overviews. So obviously there's still a lot of debate on how this manifests into business impact. So is it really something where it can directly connect the presence in AI overviews to getting more conversions, etc.? And I don't want to make up, or I don't want to open up this debate here, but I think you just have to keep in mind that when people are searching for something, no matter if it's on Google and on ChatGPT, etc., the best thing you can do is still be visible in the answer or be used as a citation. So at least you get a chance to shape the narrative. So, and this is why I feel like it's a pretty strong success that Pipedrive is already present in like 2.6K AI overviews, or to be precise, for 2.6K keywords, where there's an AI review, they are basically featured there. And it's also for something like Chief Sales Officer, inspirational sales quotes, account manager job description. And I think we can argue that some of these terms are obviously top funnel searches. So something like inspirational sales quotes is maybe a search term where I would question how many basically bottom line impact this brings. But if you think about account manager job description, this could be something where Pipedrive is not obviously a tool that helps with this specific task immediately. So I can imagine a sales team wanting to hire an account manager and they're thinking about how to structure the job description. But I can see Pipedrive being a helpful resource in this journey for a target group that is obviously part of their ICP. So sales team is obviously key of their ICP. So this can be something why it's still relevant to think about how to get into the AI overviews. Now let's dive a little bit deeper, and we compiled a quick view of the organic landing pages. So this is obviously just an extract, and we filtered this to exclude the support area, community sites, etc. So it's basically just what I like to call like the marketing front end pages. So you can see that obviously a key traffic driver here, I'll say it again, estimated by SEMrush based on the keywords it's ranking for and the search volumes. But the homepage is obviously a key traffic driver because Pipedrive is a well-known brand and a lot of people are searching for the brand. And obviously also then the pricing page because it's also ranking for Pipedrive and people are searching for the packages and for the pricing. But then you can see that we are already getting into the blog with something that is very top funnel, motivational sales quotes, but then also like the product pages. What is CRM? And this is where I feel like it's already getting very interesting. You can see, in my opinion, a little bit more like middle funnel and then also bottom funnel pages. For example, something like sales pipeline fundamental stages. It's definitely a page where I see like a clearer commercial intent from someone that is part of the ICP because it's completely different to motivational sales quotes. So here, maybe it's a early stage startup sales team, like the first sales hire, and they're thinking about how to structure the pipeline and what are the fundamental stages and how you should structure this and like how a deal should progress through the pipeline. And obviously, since it's somehow foundational knowledge, they're giving the people here, they can still shape the narrative towards what Pipedrive thinks is the best way to structure it. And if someone's just getting started, like with an early stage startup, chances are high that they haven't made a decision yet to go with one or the other CRM. So especially for Pipedrive being like with a very low barrier of entry, so high learning or like quick learning curve, let's say like this, compared to a Salesforce, for example, and maybe even a HubSpot, where they have like all these different marketing features also. I think Pipedrive has like made a very smart move to also focus on these topics. And obviously it's just an example, so I don't want to overemphasize this one example, but this is something that you see very well for Pipedrive, and also something that Marcus in our podcast told me that they focus heavily on this whole like middle funnel, bottom funnel topics instead of the more top funnel things that, for example, have maybe driven a little bit of results in terms of traffic in the past. But as soon as ChatGPT and AI search came along, basically, as maybe all of you know, or if not, I try to enlighten you here, top funnel doesn't make any sense anymore. So yeah, let's then look a little bit at the different key pillars. I already pointed out one, which is the blog. So you have like around 700 pages in the blog, which is substantial. So if you think about how Pipedrive is actually structuring these pages and how much effort they put into them, I don't want to spoiler you, but if you look at this, so it's very, very heavily loaded also with graphics and lead magnets and like examples of things and videos and all of that. This is not something that you can do like just with some bulk AI writing tools, which I would not recommend at all, actually, if you want to actually drive results. But they have a wide variety of topics they cover, like from obviously motivational sales calls, but also to professional business email, marketing templates, to the SMB's guide to balance sheet in simple terms. Super niche topic, but obviously getting a lot of traffic, gross sales versus net sales, types of sales, jobs, etc. So they're covering a wide range, and this is obviously just a very small excerpt. Then another key pillar actually, and Pipedrive is doing this so smartly. So it's actually the products. So if you think about the classic B2B SaaS website, most people only see the blog as like their surface area for search. But actually, especially with AI search now, your product pages, your feature pages, like solutions pages, however you call them, they are like predetermined, and they're like the perfect surface area to put them out there. Because if people are searching for something and in the conversation with AI, no matter if it's Google AI mode, ChatGPT, etc., and then they come like to the point, okay, obviously I need a scheduling tool. Like, what are the best scheduling tools out there? The chances are high, if you have your page optimized, like the product page optimized, that you get not only very qualified traffic, because people have already learned from their AI conversation that this tooling is something that would be beneficial for them, but they also come to a page that is like very commercially driven. So obviously you can also create blog posts in a like commercial sense, and you can think about stuff, as we like to do at Radiant, like product content fit. So how can I bridge the gap between the content and the product in the most seamless way possible? But it's still something different if you have people on like your product page, which is more like a landing page, like in a paid ad sense. And this is something what I really like about Pipedrive, and which is also why I feel like they're so successful with driving a lot of signups and driving a lot of business results from their website. Now, next up is industries, and it basically goes the same way. So especially if you think about how people search nowadays. So they search way more contextualized, personalized. So if you are, for example, working as a real estate company or real estate broker, or if you're managing properties and you need a CRM software, chances are high that you're not just searching for like CRM software, but that you're saying like, I am a property management company with 100 objects and like 50 people, and I need a CRM tool. So please suggest me some, or what are the best ones? And then you have very highly contextualized searches. And the thing is, the overall traffic you're getting here, so even if you check like real estate CRM, CRM for startups, logistics CRM, the overall amount of traffic is not so high. But I would guess, and I don't know for sure, but my guesstimate, so to say, would be that these pages can convert with something like 10, maybe even 20% conversion rate, even from organic traffic, because it's just so highly specialized. And you've clearly matched the intent of the person, and you can tailor everything towards their industry and their actual like day-to-day experience. Yeah, and then you also have features. So the same, what I explained about products goes for features. Don't want to go into too much more detail here. And then last up is the CRM comparison. So CRM comparison, they basically have 10 pages here. Some of them drive more traffic, some of them drive less traffic, but they have gone the route of comparing Pipedrive to alternatives. So they own the narrative about how HubSpot, for example, is different to Pipedrive, or how Pipedrive is better than HubSpot, or versus Monday, but they also came up with alternative pages. So for example, Copper alternative, MailChimp alternative, Zendesk alternative, something like that. And these pages are obviously also highly commercially built, like with a high commercial intent, where you actually have a comparison of the both tools, etc. And if people, for example, search or ask an AI to say like, what's better, Pipedrive or HubSpot? The chances are pretty high that if you rank really well on Google or on Bing, or if you have like a generally solid search presence, that these pages are also surfaced in an AI answer, and then you obviously have a good chance to shape the narrative the way you want it. Yeah. Let's go into two page template examples, because I always feel like it's super cool to understand for some of like these very successful companies to understand how they're actually building their pages and which principles apply here. And if you look at this page, so this is, for example, a long form guide, like for the SMB's guide to the balance sheet. After that, we'll also look into a feature page, which, what I said, they are also like highly optimized for search presence. But if you look at this, so I immediately see a couple of things they're doing really, really well. So what you see here is for like the structure at first. We also obviously always added annotations for you to dive deeper into that if you want to look at the Miro. It's linked in the video description below. So you can see that this is already tailored towards the questions people are actually asking. They might ask themselves, or they might ask AI or Google or search engine. So it could be something like, what is a balance sheet? Why do companies create them? How to read a balance sheet in simple terms with an example, or like 4 steps to create your own balance sheet as a small business. So using a question in the headline is something that is immediately very smart, because if like an AI accesses the page and they want to understand the best possible answer to the question the user is asking, you're already directing them to the right area of this page. So this is something just from the structure perspective that is very smart. Then another thing is what I still see even with very successful companies that they get wrong is that you use the above the fold area in a way where you actually use dual coding. So you do not just write that it's the SMB's guide to balance sheets, but you also use a visual that illustrates this concept, because it's like a cognitive bias for us humans. It's easier to understand a concept or to like make sense of an association if we have the text and if we also have a matching visual. So this is maybe just a small thing, but in the end, the question is, if people land on the page, will they stay or will they leave? And if they feel like, I'm not sure if this is like a serious page or if it's really about the term and the things I'm looking for, then you can use something like this. It's very, very, very simple to actually increase engagement rates and to increase time on page. Yeah. Then what you see immediately here from the structure is Pipedrive is using a lot of lists and like rather short paragraphs, and they try to explain everything in relatively simple terms. So they don't go into too much detail in terms of tech jargon, but they rather try to acknowledge that it's easier for AI, but also for people to understand the concept if they aim for like a lower level reading grade. And this is something that you can see with a lot of pages that have a great search ranking and also a great AI visibility, that they try to not overcomplicate stuff and also make it easy for people to read and to skim. So you always want to accommodate for both types of users. You want to have something that's like in-depth, but you also want to have like a skimmable option. And using these lists and like bullet lists is a very good skimmable option. And AI also really likes it. Then another element that is really cool is, so we're still talking about people that have searched or like asked AI about balance sheets and how to like either understand or create or like explain an SMB's a balance sheet. And they actually also have a template for that. So it's however you want to call it. You can call it a lead magnet, you can call it a content upgrade, but it's something where you have like a perfectly fitting free asset that people can download that will enable them, and this is a cool thing here, to then constantly have touchpoints with your brand. So as they have created a template, which is basically like an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, the cool thing is that if you really start working with it, you constantly see Pipedrive. So you constantly have like an increasing brand association compared to just like a PDF guide that you just read through. It's like a white paper, 3 pages, and then you're done with it. That's completely different with something like this balance sheet template. So it's not only cool that they use a lead magnet, because I still see a lot of companies not using them enough. It's also cool that they are using like this concept of the lead magnet that is reusable and that basically builds up brand association over time. Yeah, and obviously also like using screenshots, using graphics is great to just break up the layout, positive way. Yeah, and then also here they basically have a section like these 4 steps where they don't just explain something, but where they make it actionable. So if you read through the steps, you can see here, step 1, gather financial information. And they actually list everything you need. And if you would go further down on the page, you would see other steps that are also very actionable. And this is something that I feel like is a very good concept for content in general, no matter if it's a blog post, a landing page, a LinkedIn post. If you always think about what people can take away from the content, not just in terms of information, but in terms of action. So why would someone, for example, send this piece of content to a peer, to a colleague, to a friend, like business friend? Why would someone bookmark this? Why would someone take this and send it to their own user in Slack, or like send yourself an email with that? And if you really think about that concept in terms of how can I make it actionable, so someone takes something away that really helps them do something differently in their day-to-day, I think then you come up, so it's not easy, obviously, but then you come up with significantly better content ideas, which is super cool, because in the end, you will see that the distribution in terms of like dark social, for example, so people sending things to peers and colleagues in Slack, etc., this will be much easier. So you don't have to put like a lot of ad spend behind that to like push it out on LinkedIn or something. So it might always make sense to put some ad spend behind it, but it will just distribute more organically, more on its own. So not promising virality here, but like, how do I make my content actionable, like really actionable? This is something that I always ask myself, and our team also always asks themselves, and where I feel like if you start just thinking a little bit into that direction, you will see that it helps you level up the content game a lot. Then obviously we have a video here. Videos generally, if it's a well-fitting topic, is always a great, we like to say, timekeeper. So it helps you to basically stay longer on the page, to keep the users longer on the page. It also sometimes helps to explain complex topics more easily. And also, if you have something in the video, like if the video gets you to a certain point where you should act about something, then it's also something that can act like as a subtle CTA, which basically supports the content and supports the overall goal of the content. Yeah, another CTA for the lead magnet, which is great. And then in the end, obviously, at the end of the content, so Pipedrive is not doing something here. I also like to point it out. They are not putting like hundreds of CTAs all the time. So you obviously have a lot of internal linking to other content pages, and you have like further reading and also a lead magnet, but you only have like a CTA here at the top, like try it for free, and then lead magnet, obviously, but then the only other like key CTA is at the bottom of the page. And I feel like it's interesting because I know that Pipedrive is doing a lot of A/B testing on their pages and also on their SEO like content portfolio, or the pages that are relevant to SEO and to AI search. And I would say what you can take away from that is that not necessarily just having a lot of call to actions will lead to having a lot of leads and a lot of revenue. So you might be more cautious about just pumping out like dozens and dozens of call to actions on your page, but rather maybe think about how to go the Pipedrive way, where just you make the content so valuable that people will immediately just look for, okay, where can I sign up? Instead of, okay, it's like this 10th time that they're showing me this call to action. Okay, then I will sign up now. Because I think this is more the concept like of banner blindness, where people just don't see the banners anymore on the web. You can also call it CTA blindness, where people just don't see the CTAs anymore if you have like 10 to 20 of them. Yes, then feature page. This is also an interesting one because it's a completely different page type, and you can see that it's also like, it's built way more like a landing page. And the cool thing is that this is still optimized for SEO or for like search presence and for AI search, but it's also optimized for UX. It's also optimized for product marketing, and it's also optimized for conversions. And I think if you think about these like 3 or 4 aspects, depending on if you see UX and conversion optimization as one, it's basically the hardest is to bring all of them together. So just having something that is like product marketing led is fairly easy. Just having something that is like SEO content led is fairly easy. Having something that is just like landing page conversion optimization, like die hard getting each and every like point of conversion rate out there is fairly easy, but bridging everything is, I think, the hardest craft. And Pipedrive is doing this very well with, you might argue that's a little bit too long intro text, but they already have like a key promise here that like your work will feel more rewarding, etc. So they're tapping into like the emotional setting of someone instead of leading with features, etc. And it's also illustrated by this person that's just lying back in terms of, automation is doing all the work for me. Obviously, everybody that has already worked with automation knows that it's helpful, but then you go for the next thing. But then afterwards, you immediately go into this like classic trust element with like the different review platforms, etc., with the badges. And this obviously is more landing pagey. Whereas this, I would say, longer intro text is more like SEO content-ish. And then if they go into the product explanation, they don't just say, hey, Pipedrive has this cool feature, etc. But they actually also explain it in a way that helps them to have this content surfaced more. So they might say, like, automated sales processes support sales reps throughout the entire sales cycle. For example, Pipedrive sales automation features can push a deal forward by auto-creating a deal when a qualified lead is added, or activities whenever a deal moves along the pipeline. So they explain a concept and they give an answer that is helpful for the user, no matter if they care about Pipedrive or not. But they also integrate Pipedrive here to make it clear that this is about their product. And I feel like this is just a small example, but this makes a lot of sense. And you can also see this throughout the page. Then they're integrating a case study, which is something that I would also always recommend for like blog content, because having a testimonial, etc., we have seen great results if people use this. So they could also use elements like this in their blog content, maybe as an A/B testing idea. If you test this Pipedrive, hit me up and let me know how it goes. But yeah, without going into too much detail, you really have this like broken out landing page layout that works really well between explaining concepts and explaining the product, and then also going into certain integrations where you know that people might care about this, so they always think about a potential next step. So if you think about like automation features here and like sales pipeline automations, you might also think about, okay, how can I connect Zapier to like work with other tools I already have in my tech stack? How can I maybe natively connect it to Asana, which is a project management tool that a lot of people use, or with Trello? Then if you go down this route, you go to even more like a detailed overview with the marketplace. Then you have like this immediate trust connect between like Zapier and Pipedrive, and the whole like relatively abstract concept of automation becomes much clearer. And people might get lost like in this integration thing, and they might say, hey, cool, they also integrate with Apollo, I'm using Apollo, whatever. So I think this is generally something that is really smart to always think how to anticipate the next step that somebody might take. Yeah, so obviously this is just a surface level view on everything we have created here for you in this Miro board. I recommend to tap into that on your own. Link is in the video description below. Check our annotations, check the page types, etc. But now let's move over to the really cool part. The next part we also introduced newly with our Pipedrive breakdown here. So it's the first time we're doing that. Let me know how valuable you find it. Like if it's something where you see really a lot of insights from how we present the AI search visibility. If there's something missing, etc., please put a link in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's take a look at that. So first of all, as we use SEMrush, for example, for the overall organic search visibility, to check it, we're using Peak AI, which is a fellow Berlin company here from Germany. They have been making waves in the whole like search visibility monitoring space. I don't know when you will watch the video, but like now it's October 2025. Maybe if you watch the video, they're already like a unicorn company. But yeah, nevertheless, Peak AI is super cool, and we basically set up a set of prompts. I will go into them in a sec, but you can see that Pipedrive has a generally super strong visibility. So I won't go into like each and every KPI here in detail. You can check our annotations as said to understand them in more depth. But let's go with that. Like the visibility gives you a general indication of how visible a company is for the set of prompts we have defined and that we track. And then we have the sentiment, which basically gives you an idea about how positive. So the higher the score towards 100, or the lower the score towards 0, the more positive or the more negative the whole sentiment is. And then position. So position is something, if you think about a ChatGPT response where you ask for the best sales pipeline software, then ChatGPT says, hey, there are 5 interesting tools. Number 1, HubSpot. Number 2, Salesforce. Number 3, Pipedrive. Then Pipedrive might have position number 3. So it's not a position in the same way as with SEMrush or Google. Although Google, obviously, if you think about AI mode, they also don't really have positions anymore. But it's just they are trying to give us something that we know from the SEO world to make more sense of that. Yeah, but you can see that Pipedrive is pretty high up there. So obviously HubSpot and Salesforce, don't know why this is just reading sales, but Salesforce, they are like the leaders, and then Soho is a little bit further up there. But Pipedrive, for example, is significantly better as like in a competitor like Monday, and also like I would say these all-in-one tools, like for example like ClickUp, which is rather a project management software, but they obviously also position themselves as like the all-in-one tool, or something like Attio. So Attio is obviously like a cool new startup, like new kid on the block for the whole CRM space, but they're still fairly invisible. So I would say that Attio is not necessarily doing something wrong in terms of marketing, but it's just what Pipedrive has built with their whole content portfolio, their SEO presence, etc., something that they benefit a lot from now in their AI search presence. If you check it between like the different tools, so this AI search presence is basically derived from ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google AI overviews. And if we dive into ChatGPT or Perplexity in particular, it's really interesting because Pipedrive in ChatGPT is still on number 4. So the ranking is fairly the same between like overall and then ChatGPT. But if you look at Perplexity, for example, Pipedrive has even surpassed Salesforce. And I think it just illustrates how these tools, like in terms of Google, Perplexity, ChatGPT, how they behave differently, how they have like different weightings of like meaning how they balance or how they value certain content and how they work with your search query or your prompt. So, and since ChatGPT is obviously the tool with the biggest market share when you look at a classic AI chatbot, but Perplexity is also like has a decent chunk of market share. And if you think about like where the most traffic comes from, it will be ChatGPT first, but then Perplexity, pretty close second. This can be a real opportunity. So most of us are just still thinking about Google versus ChatGPT in terms of, do I optimize for Google or do I optimize for ChatGPT? But you could also argue that it makes sense to actively optimize for Perplexity and to understand better how to drive your visibility in Perplexity. Yeah, but let that aside, just a side note from myself. If you look at Google AI reviews, we have already seen that in our SEMrush analysis a little bit. They are also on position 4, very, very well positioned. I guess they would love to like take over Salesforce and take over HubSpot, but I think HubSpot is like, they are the, let's say, the innovators behind inbound marketing. So obviously not everything's perfect with what HubSpot has been doing. They have also created a lot of top funnel content and traffic that has not manifested in like business value. But it's not a surprise to me that HubSpot is so far up. Obviously, they're also still significantly bigger than Pipedrive. But I think Pipedrive, that they are basically head to head with Salesforce, it's an amazing achievement. And it comes down to how they have basically played this whole search marketing or search growth ecosystem for the last years. Now, let's dive a little bit further into our prompts. So this is also maybe a little bit of the explanation of just how PKI works, but we thought about a lot of prompts that we take from like keyword data, that we take from how people articulate themselves, for example, on review platforms, on Reddit, how they ask questions on Reddit, etc. So we just try to really anticipate how people might prompt, but I want to be clear about that this is at best a guesstimate. So this is an educated guess about everything that we look at. But in the end, I always recommend to all of our clients and also like to the team, you have to speak with users. You have to speak with people that speak with users daily. You have to speak with leads. You have to speak with your customers. Only then you can really understand what the prompts are that you need to track. And even then, it's something that can be misleading because the actual prompts might be highly contextualized. So I'm not a fan of saying that everybody will put in like a half a book as a prompt in there, but because people just don't do that. But you just have to keep this in mind. So this can be an indicator, and I think it's an important indicator, but you should always check other data sources like Google Analytics or like your analytics tool in terms of how much traffic am I actually getting from these AI chatbots. And then also you should implement something like self-reported attribution. So asking people, how did you become aware of Pipedrive? How did you become aware of Radiant? And then if people enter, come to ChatGPT recommended you, looked up Pipedrive on Perplexity, something like that, you should take this data and then triangulate it with like your traffic data and your conversion data and your visibility data. And then from there, like make another educated guess and just like in a couple of iterations come to a set of prompts where you feel confident that they actually that they're a good mirror of how your target group and your ICP might actually prompt AI. So, but you can see like this visibility is always based on Pipedrive as a brand. You can see that Pipedrive has like a very, very high visibility for a lot of very important prompts. So not only Pipedrive versus HubSpot, it's obvious that they have 100% visibility there, but also like CRM with built-in email marketing, which CRM works best for agencies, top-rated sales pipeline management tools. And now you might already see the connect. So top-rated sales pipeline management tools. Now let's get back to this one here. And then we see sales pipeline software, pipeline management software, sales pipeline management tools, number 1, number 2, number 1. So you see the pattern a little bit. So what they do in SEO, the way they do it actually helps them also to drive AI visibility. And it often comes down to also their own content. It will also come down to earned content and earned web mentions. We'll go to that in a sec. But owned content is still a big part of the puzzle. And a lot of people might suggest that it's not this way, but I feel like they rather suggest it in their own commercial interest. But if you really dig through a lot of companies and analyze their AI search visibility, you will see, I think, the same pattern as we see. Yeah, so not going into every prompt here, you can check it in the My Robot as said, but what is like, I think generally good to understand is if you have a visibility of 100%, it could be something like best sales pipeline management software for startups. And what you can see here is Pipedrive is obviously the number one here as for the top picks. And as I said, you have like own content, but you have earned content. And what's interesting here is that you actually have like a LinkedIn Pulse article that ChatGPT is like giving us as a citation. So that means that this article basically shapes the answer of ChatGPT. And this is like the 7 best CRM for SaaS startups to boost growth. And it's something that like from a LinkedIn marketing angle, most people overlook. So this is a newsletter on LinkedIn that you can do. And most people just don't know about this feature or feel like this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't give me like any reach or engagement, etc. if you're not a big creator. But here you can see that ChatGPT might actually value these type of content because they see it as valuable user-generated content. And it's something that it's basically the pattern of also why Reddit, for example, is used as a citation often, because ChatGPT and these providers basically value user-generated content because they do not expect a commercial interest behind it. But it's like an unfiltered user opinion, and this is something that makes sense to surface. At the same time, you can see citations, for example, like TechRadar. So TechRadar is obviously a publisher with a relatively or fairly high authority. So I don't wanna say one way or the other, but generally high authority. And this is also then used as a citation and to shape the answer. So, and this is just a good example also maybe for you to understand how these AI visibility monitoring tools work, or how PKI works in that sense. And if you think about prompts with an AI visibility of 0, which could be CRM with AI for lead scoring, you see that Pipedrive is just not mentioned as a brand. So even it could be that Pipedrive, for example, might be used as a source, but if they're just used as a source but not mentioned as a brand, they will basically have a visibility of 0. And the thing is, for example, here, zeroing with AI for lead scoring, you just have like 3 or 4, like Carrot also, but we didn't add Carrot to the competitors. And you have Soho, Salesforce, HubSpot. And then you can see how, for example, one article from like this Reach AI about top 10 AI CRM tools for lead scoring, how this one citation basically shapes 50% of the answer in terms of brand mentions. So in terms of which providers actually mention. And what's interesting is if you take a look at the article, like top 10 AI CRM tools for lead scoring, it sounds really, really long tail and really niche, but it's basically just exactly how this prompt was entered. So one key learning that you can already take away is that sometimes it might make a lot of sense to don't care about like search volume, etc. at all, if you're confident that a certain prompt or like a certain topic or context is something that your ICP will probably ask AI or search on Google, and then just go for it and create content there, because probably the competition will be relatively low and you will have a great chance to become the citation and to then become also the narrative defining source. And then maybe also get your brand mentioned. Yeah, so then let's dive into the next part, which is own sources. So in PKI, you can basically check all the sources, which is the citations. So if ChatGPT gives us citations, we can also see, or also Perplexity, also Google AI views, but we can see which domains are used there. And you can see, and this is an interesting paradox in the whole B2B SaaS space, because Zapier is one of the most frequently used domains for citations, but it doesn't match their brand mentions at all. And it comes down to Zapier having a big content portfolio about comparisons of different software tools, because Zapier obviously sees an angle to then bridge the gap towards, hey, you can automate connecting Pipedrive and Asana, or you could also automate your lead scoring process, etc. And then they have their integrations, for example, also with Pipedrive. And then it's a it's a fairly easy step to go into the Zapier product. And it has worked tremendously well by research. It's still to be determined how well it will work from AI search. But I could imagine also people then checking the source, like digging a little bit deeper, and then also basically the same happening as it happened with Google, that people then landing on the Zapier page see the benefit of connecting a CRM tool with another tool, and then just casually trying out Zapier and seeing the value of automation. But speaking of Pipedrive, you can see that the Pipedrive domain is actually loose in 14% of the monitored chats, and HubSpot is only used a little bit more. Monday.com also, Salesforce a little bit more or significantly more. That's interesting. It's a little bit of the Zapier paradox, same here. But you can see that the type of content that is used as citation from Pipedrive is relatively diverse. So it's from the comparison pages we talked about then. Then it's also about, this is really interesting strategy, about an alternative page from Pipedrive about Pipedrive. So what are alternatives to Pipedrive? Pipedrive just decided, okay, I want to own the narrative, which is interesting. Then building a sales pipeline. It's a how-to guide that is used, and then also Pipedrive is mentioned, obviously, there. Then sales tasks, there's a how-to guide, the homepage, the analytical 5 best CRM with email marketing software, but then also product pages and another how-to guide. So most people, if they think about like mid-funnel, bottom-funnel content, they will tell you you have to invest into comparison content, into versus content, into alternative content, maybe listicles. But you can see here that also 4 of the citations just from our sample, they're just how-to guides. And this is also something that makes a lot of sense if it's really like commercially relevant, this guide, and something like building a sales pipeline, something really actionable. And also probably you won't be able to build a full sales pipeline just based on like a 3-paragraph answer in ChatGPT. This can be content where it makes a lot of sense to focus on that and to create it. And yeah, you can dive deeper into that. We have added a few screenshots here. Pipedrive is also using these comparison things like Pipedrive versus Salesforce, and they have like these very, very great quick answers, like Pipedrive versus HubSpot. Don't get tied to features you don't need. Win more deals with less legwork. So it's obviously a sentiment Pipedrive tries to create about how they live up to HubSpot. And it's super interesting. Like this is something that is super smart, because having it in such like quick, like rather bullet point format makes it super well extractable for AI. Yeah, and last but not least, let's take a look at the earned sources, because earned sources, as I had already said, is also super important, and it has become more important with AI search than it has been with Google. Yeah. We can look at the citations and we can see different like categories. So obviously PKA automatically assigns the categories, but you can see competitor, UGC, corporate, other, editorial, reference, institutional. And you already see like from these citations and from the sources, you have something, for example, like Reddit or YouTube that are like, it's just those 2 here, but they're used really often, like 23% for Reddit, 34% for YouTube. This is especially from Google AI reviews because Google prefers YouTube a lot. It's not like it doesn't translate to ChatGPT and to Perplexity, but for Google AI reviews, and probably then also in the future for AI mode, it might also look like this. And if you look at Perplexity, it's interesting because here, Reddit, for example, is like the top used source. And we see this often. And we see this even more often with ChatGPT, but also for Perplexity, it's like a little bit of mix. And you can see it also here, like it's just this one UGC source with Reddit, but this is then used very, very often. But other than that, we rather have like either competitors or corporate, which if we would use this as a competitor would also be competitor, ourselves like Pipedrive or Microsoft SalesMate. But the majority of sources is like owned content, but the frequency of usage tends a little bit more towards than UGC here. And if we think about Reddit, if you didn't spend a lot of time yet with the whole Reddit thing, then you have to just think about Reddit as a hub of a lot of like very deep niche, like sometimes actually expert discussions about certain topics. And especially in the B2B SaaS space, there's a lot of discussion about how certain tools work, how like HubSpot versus Pipedrive versus Monday, how they work in comparison, like best CRM for handling leads and email, marketing on budget. So there's a lot of stuff. And since oftentimes, maybe not always, but since oftentimes these answers are really valuable, and then also like certain tools are mentioned. So for example, here, HubSpot and Pipedrive, Reddit, ChatGPT draws from these Reddit conversations and uses them to guide its answer. And yeah, so this is for Perplexity, obviously, but for Reddit, it has been for Perplexity. For ChatGPT, interestingly, the Reddit citations have gone down a lot. So if we would have looked at that like at the beginning of September 2025, we would probably see Reddit here at the very top. And now, interestingly, ChatGPT, completely the opposite, as a lot of people suggested a couple of weeks ago, ChatGPT leans a lot towards own content. So, for example, with Soho, Zapier, Salesforce, Cognizant, Pipedrive also here, like at position 7, and only a little bit here, for example, with TechRadar towards like an editorial platform. So this might look completely different depending on your vertical and depending on your category, but it's still really key to always take a close look and to do it frequently in terms of which sources are used, which domains are used, which content is actually shaped the answer of AI, and to then take a really close look on how to maybe create content that can be a better source than the one that is already used, how to optimize your content that is already surfaced, or how to be present on other platforms that are used. For example, here, like for Google AI Overviews, as I said, you can see YouTube UGC, and it's like used in it's used all the time because there are a lot of different videos around that topic, and this is something that makes a lot of sense, that just Google wants to keep you in the YouTube ecosystem. So I think we are at the end of the video. I hope you got a fairly deep understanding of Pipedrive's like SEO presence, how they do stuff in SEO, how they build their pages, how they think about clusters, and also obviously their AI search presence, how visible they are, which prompts we monitored, how the prompts actually look, like how the responses to the prompts look, which maybe non-obvious sources shape the AI answer. And as said, we have linked all the resources like the Miro board and also an accompanying blog post down below in the video description. If you have any questions, anything that was like really interesting to you, maybe something that you didn't expect that way, or maybe like the thing you learned the most or you found the most interesting, please put it in the comments. And other than that, I hope that you took away some insights that you can use for your SEO and AI search strategy. And if you ever need help, just reach out to Radiant, because we're more than happy to support fast-growing companies on their way to more organic growth. And over and out. See you next time.